Hello everyone, it's Dio from Firm But Fair Gaming, bringing you another Diablo 3 video. Today we are bringing you a solo Necromancer build, so this is for Season 24, and it is the Legacy of Dreams build. So in this build, we are using the Legacies of Dreams gem, and this means we need to have all ancients of non-set items, and this is a corpse explosion build. It's a lot of fun, it's pretty cool, and it has great pushing potential. Already this season, there is one person who has completed a 150, so it's got a lot of push potential, and it's a lot of fun to play. So let's get into it. So the item that we're going to use for this build, as mentioned, this is the Legacy of Dreams build. So we are going to be obviously using the Legacy of Dreams gem. So this gem, of course, is while you have no set bonuses equipped, every legendary item you have equipped increases your damage by up to 375% when it's at max, which max is rank 99. And it also reduces your damage taken by 2%. And this bonus is doubled for ancient items. So for a regular legendary item is 375, and for an ancient item, you're going to get 750% increased damage, and then you're going to get the 4% damage reduction instead of the 2%. Now, for the items in this build, for the helmet, we are going to be using the Leoric's Crown. So this increases the effect of any gem socketed into this item by up to 100%. And this, of course, does not apply to legendary gems. So we put in the cooldown reduction gem into this to get twice the benefit. And this helps with our Land of the Dead cooldown, all those big ones, helps it get off quicker. For the neck, we are going to be using the Johnstone. So when Land of the Dead expires, you are granted 50 stacks of Macabre Knowledge. This increases the damage of Corpse Lance and Corpse Explosion by up to 200%. So because this is a Corpse Explosion build, this is just going to pump our DPS during this time. So again, we want that. For the shoulder slot, we're going to be using Resist's Volition. So this isn't for the first part of the unique property. So it says here, the Skeletal Mage gains the effect of the Gift of Death and Singularity runes. We're ignoring that because we don't actually have any Skeletal Mages in our build. But the second thing is useful. You gain up to 50% damage reduction if your essence is not full. So this just helps us gain a little bit of survivability in the rifts while we're running around. We are also using, and that'll roll into the next item here, the Aquila Cuirass. So while we are above, and this ranges between 90 to 95%, while we're above that percent in primary resources, all damage taken is reduced by 50%. So basically the combination of these permanently allows us to have a 50% damage reduction. For the bracers, we are using Crumb's buff bracers, so this just gives us an immunity to knockback and stun effects. There is a variation where you can also use the Ancient Parthan Defenders, so that is where each stun enemy within 25 yards reduces your damage taken by between up to 12%, so that also comes in handy. Things would be frozen when we pop Land of the Dead, and that would give us some damage reduction there. For the gloves, we are using Grasp of Essence. So when an exploded corpse damages at least one enemy, your corpse explosion deals up to 200% increased damage for 6 seconds, and this stacks 5 times, up to 5 times. So this, like mentioned, it's a corpse explosion build, so this is just buffing our DPS. For the belt, it's Deity's Binding. I always say that wrong. So basically you gain an additional up to 50% damage reduction when there is an enemy afflicted by any of your curses. So something should always be cursed, so you should always have that damage reduction. For rings, we're using Convention of Elements. So gain up to 200% increased damage to a single element for 4 seconds. So of course it has the damage rotation. Here it is down here. And this is a poison build, so we want to pop our stuff when it is in the poison cycle for that increased 200% damage. For the ring in this particular build, we are using Unity. So all damage taken is split between wearers of this item. So make sure your follower has it. If your follower does not wear this item, we do not get the benefit. So basically when your follower wears this, it's a free 50% damage reduction because the damage is split 50-50. And so we just get that free 50% damage reduction. Your followers should also have the focus so she doesn't die, so she can just continually absorb that 50% damage. For the Pants, we are using Blackthorn's Jousting Mail. So they went and added the elemental affix to the pants. So this is what we want because it gives us that additional 20% poison damage. As an alternative, if you have a Witch Doctor, you can go for Swampland Waders. If you don't have a Witch Doctor, this is the way to go. It's much easier to get this way. For the boots, we are using the Ice Climbers so that we gain immunity to freeze and immobilize effects, which is incredibly handy because in our cube, which I'll get into in a little bit, we run the Stone Gauntlets. So of course the Stone Gauntlets, as you take damage, it slows you down. And then if you get up to 5 stacks, then you're completely immobilized. For the offhand, we're using Ledger's Disdain. So Grim Scythe deals an additional up to 80% damage for each point of essence it restores. But ultimately, we are just searching for the best offhand possible. As always, for Necromancers, the offhand is kind of a nice to have if the unique property lines up, but it is not a must have. So again, it's a nice to have, not a must have. For the weapon, we're using Black Bog's Sharp. And so the reason we want this is because consecutive hits to enemies increase damage by 10%. Up to 100% damage. So that's a nice stack that we have there. I actually did not find one yet with the correct affix that we want on it. So the correct affix that we want on it is actually from Tragul's Corroded Fang. So this is the Cursed Scythe rune from Grim Scythe. Now has a 100% chance to apply Curse, and you deal up to 200% increased damage to cursed enemies. So that is the affix that we want on Black Bog's Sharp. For our cube, so I'll just jump down here. So for the cube, we want Nayer's Black Death. So this, of course, is a two-handed scythe. And so for each different poison skill you use, it increases the damage of your poison skills by up to 100% for 15 seconds. And for the armor, we want the Stone Gauntlets. So Stone Gauntlets is getting hit increases your armor by 50%, but reduces your movement speed by 15% and attack speed by 20%. And this effect stacks up to 5 times, which you will then be immobilized. But because we're wearing the Ice Climbers, you are free to go. And then lastly, in our ring slot or our jewelry, we're using Crispin's Sentence. So you deal up to 100% increased damage against slowed enemies, or triple this bonus against enemies afflicted by any other type of control impairing effect. So basically, during Land of the Dead, whenever everything is frozen, we would deal 3 times the damage. Now I have a couple other items over here, so I just wanted to throw out that there is an alternative build if you have the survivability, where you can wear Shi Mizu's Haori as a chest piece, so well below 20% life, all attacks are guaranteed critical hits. And then we have this Lorinel's Sunstone, when your damage reduction is increased by up to 0.95% for every 1% life missing. So it is a low health, critical strike, high damage build. So this is only if you are very experienced with the build and familiar with your toughness and how survivable you are, would I recommend that. I'm just including it as an FYI. I personally am using the bracers, and I might go on to Ancient Parthon Defenders. As I'm getting more comfortable and as I start to push higher, I may adjust as we go. For the gems that we're going to be using, we are using Bane of the Trap, so increased damage against enemies under the effects of control impairing effects by up to, well, I have 36%. It's only rank 71. My main gem is on my Witch Doctor right now. And then its secondary after it's leveled to 25 is gain an aura that reduces the movement speed of enemies within 15 yards by 30%. So it basically procs its own damage bonus there. We already covered the Legacy of Dreams gem that we're going to be using. And then of course we need Stricken. So each attack you make against an enemy increases the damage it takes from your attacks by a fixed percentage. And then gain 25% increased damage against bosses and Rift Guardians. So of course we need this in order to actually kill the Rift Guardian at the end of each level. So for the skills that we use in this build, we are using Grim Scythe with the Cursed Scythe rune. So this is, we generate 12 essence per enemy hit, slash with a Summon Scythe in front of you, dealing 150% weapon damage as physical. And the Cursed Scythe changes it to poison, and that is basically, and it also gives a 15% chance to have them inflicted with a random curse. and like mentioned, it turns it to poison. We're using Bone Spear with Blighted Marrow. So summon a piercing projectile that causes 500% weapon damage as physical through all enemies, but then we change it to Blighted Marrow, so it is now poison, and damage is increased by 15% for each enemy the Bone Spear passes through. So that again is working well with our set. We have Corpse Explosion with Close Quarters, so target an area exploding up to 5 corpses within 11 yards, dealing 1,050% weapon damage as physical to all enemies within 20 yards. Close Quarters changes this to poison and now explodes up to 5 corpses, dealing almost 1,600% weapon damage to all enemies within 20 yards. Blood Rush, we are using, this is just our mobility, so shed your mortal flesh and reappear up to 50 yards away at a cost of 5% health. And we're using potency, so we increase our armor by 100% for 2 seconds after casting potency. So a little bit of survivability there. We are using Land of the Dead, so all corpse skills can be used at will for 10 seconds. And then we're using Frozen Lands, which enemies in Land of the Dead are periodically frozen. So basically freezes everything on screen and we run around blowing everything up and trying to kill everything. We are also using Bone Armor with Dislocation. So Bone Armor is rip bones from nearby enemies, dealing 125% weapon damage as physical, and create armor that reduces damage taken by 3% per enemy hit up to 10 stacks, and it lasts for a minute. Then we go to Dislocation, which changes it to poison, so it also stuns them. So that's our third poison ability, dealing damage. And for our passives, we are using Blood is Power. So after cumulatively losing 100% of your life, all ability cooldowns are reduced by 20%. And this effect cannot reduce the ability's cooldown more than once for each time that an ability is used. We're using Eternal Torment, so your curses now cost 50% less essence and last forever. We don't actually have a curse on our bar. The curse is applied by our scythe, but it just makes it last forever, so we don't have to worry about that. So it helps for kiting, dragging, and creating groups. We don't have to keep worrying about reapplying curses to the group. Standalone, because we don't have any pets, this increases our armor by 100% and reduces damage by 10% for each active minion. So this is basically just giving us the armor buff. And then I'm personally rocking Final Surface. So this is just a second life. So when I take lethal damage, you are sustained, preventing all damage for 4 seconds. In addition, you heal for 10% of your life per minion, and this cannot happen more than once every 60 seconds. So those are the skills that we're using in this build. Now for the stats that we need in this build, so on Leoric's Crown, we were rolling critical hit chance, so trying to get the 6% roll. If you find you're having some survivability issues, you can roll the plus life, so you can get up to 15% increased life. On the neck, I do not have a very good one here, so on the neck we would like elemental damage, so we want to get 20% poison, and then we want critical hit damage as well as critical hit chance, as well as, of course, we want a good unique property on it, so I only get 169% here. I would like closer to 200. For the shoulders, we can actually roll corpse explosion damage on here, so we would ideally want to get corpse explosion damage as well as either cooldown reduction or armor. We can also roll corpse explosion onto our chest piece. I have armor on here just for a little bit of survivability, so that would be another place that we could add some potential damage there. For the bracers, we want to get the elemental affix, so we want poison as well as we want critical hit chance. So these bracers I will be looking to replace because all I got is the poison damage at the moment. For the gloves, these can be a big DPS item, if you will. So we want critical hit damage, critical hit chance. We could also, if we got a good roll, take away the vitality and put on cooldown reduction. So you could get good items there. You could even go for a quad roll and potentially have like attack speed as well. So you could have like attack speed, cooldown reduction, critical hit damage, and critical hit chance. For the bindings here, for the belt, this is a survivability item, so I should actually roll off the bone spike damage there and roll it into armor. I just haven't done that yet. So this is a survivability item, so we want all survivability stats there. For our rings, so because this is Unity, it is kind of fixed because it has that unique property of increased damage against elites. So for this one, I want critical hit chance, and if it was a nice roll, I could also potentially, if it came socketed, I could have rolled off the int into critical hit damage there. For convention of elements, we would like critical hit damage, critical hit chance. I'm actually going with the area damage here because my cooldown is not too bad, so I like that. If you find you want more cooldown, you can go with cooldown instead. Area damage is a nice addition as we are doing area damage with the corpse explosion. For the belt, we want to have the poison on here, obviously. So here I have 16%. Ideally, I would have liked it higher. And for fun here, you could either add armor for survivability. I added the Grim Sight damage just for kicks, but ultimately we just want a high elemental roll on here, as well as we should probably roll with armor for survivability. I will be changing that as I push higher. For the boots, this is a survivability item. So this is not a very great roll on here. So I do have int, vit, and then resist all. As an int-based class, we don't really need resist all because our we already have enough resistance due to our base intellect stats. So ideally, I would have had armor on here instead. And then for our offhand here, so basically this again is just an item that we want the best stats for. So this is a mediocre item, unfortunately. I would have liked to have a critical hit chance on here as well. So I would like critical hit chance, cooldown reduction, and then possibly area damage if it worked out that way. And then for the weapon, we of course want it to have the poison affix on here, and then we want high rolls, so we would like a high cooldown reduction roll, as well as we want, of course, the Tragul's Corroded Fang affix on here. So again, we want Black Bog Sharp with high poison damage on it, and then we would like Tragul's Corroded Fang. So this is the Cursed Scythe rune from Grizz Scythe, now has 100% chance to apply curse, and you deal up to 200% increased damage because it would be up to max on here. So those are the stats that we would be looking for on all of our items. And of course, because this is Legacy of Dreams, we want them to be ancient or better. So this concludes the Legacy of Dreams Necromancer Corpse Explosion build. It was a lot of fun making this for you guys. So we did a poll last week where we asked which build you guys would like to see, and the Legacy of Dreams Monk build actually won, but then we left the poll open for the rest of the week to see how it would pan out, and there's a lot more votes that came in for the Necromancer Legacy of Dreams build, so we thought we would bring it to you guys. So we hope you have enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun putting this together and pushing. I just love seeing the corpse explosion go off and watching the whole screen blow up and then watching everything else blow up. It's pretty fun. Hopefully your video cards can handle it. It should be good. But as always, if you have any comments or questions, please let us know below. And as always, we appreciate any likes and subscribes. We hit 2K this week. That's amazing. That's awesome. You guys rock. We appreciate all the support you guys are giving us. And as always, if you want, you can find us on Twitch. We'd love to see you there. Good luck, everybody.